Intamin amusement rides may very well be the most dynamic and trailblazing attraction manufacturer of all time. In an industry that is full of derivative ideas and copycats, there is no designer who nearly always moves to the beat of their own drum like Intamin. While like any company, they take ideas that follow industry trends, since their inception, they have always been the sole manufacturer you go to for the most ambitious and greatest amusement rides ever built. Their full roller coaster history is quite dense and unprecedented to explore, and that will be the point of this series, to go year by year and track each innovation and see how each small creation adds up and learns from each other. Everything starts somewhere. Plenty of manufacturers had built their take on small steel children's coasters, including Myler, B.A. Shift, Alan Herschel, and Zaire, to name a few. Opening year after the senior, Junior Gemini opened in 1979 along with the Schwarzkopf-built Wildcat at Cedar Point. The ride opened across the midway from the giant American Aero coaster that had opened the previous year for the children who were not old enough to ride yet. The tiny coaster was under 20 feet tall and 500 feet long, but created the children coaster model, which caught the eye of many parks in the early years. Just 2 years later, Intamin was contacted to build their first thrill coaster for Marriott's Great America. This would not be a larger steel coaster, or even one coaster, but a giant racing wooden coaster. The tallest in the world, in fact, with American Eagle. While Great America had quite an impressive collection of coasters at the time, American Eagle would be the park's first original layout and stood at an impressive 127 feet tall. The ride featured not only a massive out and back layout, similar to other racing wooden coasters at the time, but a comically massive epic helix both coasters would travel as well. The ride still runs and dominates today, although it's very unlikely you'll see both sides racing together again due to the ride's weathered structure. Between 1982 and 1983, Intamin was solely focused on Parque de la Ciudad in Argentina. This wouldn't just be for one coaster or even two, but three. The first of these to open, and the smallest, was Montaña Rusa Infantil, or simply Children's Roller Coaster. This was nearly the same coaster layout of Junior Gemini, with small hills and a tiny lift hill. This was followed up 2 months later with Super Montaña Rusa Infantil, or Super Children's Roller Coaster. This featured the same track and train design, but sported a lift which looked to be nearly twice as tall and a much larger drop and hill. With these three children coasters built, it looked like Intamin had a surefire model in place, but the third coaster for the park would be anything but that. Intamin would attempt to build Vertigo Rama, a giant racing steel coaster. The information about this ride is very conflicting online, with most sources claiming it never operated and others thinking the ride was one-track layout. But thanks to fantastic local drone footage, it can clearly be seen it was two separate tracks that never crossed over each other. Two trains have sat on both sides of the track for its existence, but no station was ever built, and now it is left to sit and be taken over by nature. After a 2-year span of working on projects for just one park, Intamin would build their most coasters in 1 year to that point with 5. First, another children's coaster for a small Hanna-Barbera theme park in Texas named Scooby-Doo. Pictures of this ride are hard to come by, but it was relocated west 3 years later to Marriott's Great America in California. Next, another children's coaster was built for Kuwait Entertainment City. This ride has no name listed, but has one of the craziest note sections on all of RCDB. The real coasters this year would come from Intamin's third fully realized coaster model in the bobsled coaster. Very fitting for a Swiss company, this revival coaster type would seat riders in single-car bobsled trains down a steel trough, a year before Mock Rides would unveil a similar concept model. With the help of fellow Swiss manufacturer Giovanola as a subcontractor, 3 installations would open: Screamin' Delta Demon at Opryland and the Sarajevo bobsleds at Magic Mountain and Great Adventure. All 3 featured the same layout and would end up traveling quite a bit, with Magic Mountains headed to Six Flags Over Texas after just 1 year, and Great Adventures moving from Six Flags Great America and then to the Great Escape. Screamin' Delta Demon would be sent to a park in Indiana and never open again. The next year found another 3 coasters opening, including the only 2 other bobsled coasters built, this time both featuring custom layouts. These were Bob at Efteling and Avalanche Run at Cedar Point. The latter saw Intamin returning to their original buyer, with higher demands than any bobsled coaster. This was the only design to feature 2 across seating, and would later be modified to be a fully enclosed indoor coaster named Disaster Transport. The big coaster for this year would be an incredibly ambitious, compact design using an entirely new style of track. Working again with Giovanola, the companies came up with a large squared spine and the first ever 4-person wide coaster car. This bulky train would traverse a compact, dense track with swooping bank drops, giving this model the name of Space Diver. The near inverting drops were highly innovative for the time, with drops even steeper than Schwarzkopf's at the time, which could be the only thing considered similar. Opening as Z-Force as the first installation at the now Six Flags Great America, the coaster also found itself being relocated like the bobsled coasters to Six Flags Over Georgia, before ending its run with quite a long life at Six Flags Magic Mountain as Flashback. After a few years of Aero attempting and Togo building a new concept of stand-up coasters, Intamin and Giovanola returned the next year with their new box spine track for Shockwave at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Ironically being built in the exact same spot as the Intamin Sarajevo bobsleds just 2 years before, this ride would feature essentially the same 4-wide, 5-car trains as Z-Force, just standing up. The layout would also feature Intamin's first true inversion, with just 1 vertical loop and many swooping turns through the layout. It would operate a total of 19 years at 3 different parks before being sent to a 4th, where it would sit in storage and be removed in 2017. Intamin would return 2 years later with another stand-up coaster simply named Stand Up at Skara Summerland. This coaster would feature the same layout as Shockwave and would operate for 6 years before being relocated to Laronde. 1988 also may have been the year a mysterious unknown indoor family coaster opened in Saudi Arabia. No pictures or proper information exist for this ride, so it's unknown if this was a children's style coaster or their family indoor coaster that would debut many years later. It would be another 3 years until the next Intamin coaster was built, and it would be going back to a model they hadn't built in 10 years. Pegasus would be a family wooden coaster at the beautiful Efteling. After this year, Intamin would be taking no time off, with at least 1 coaster opening every year since. While Pegasus was a family wooden coaster, Jupiter at Kajima Kogen would be anything but. This behemoth would be the first wooden coaster in Japan and feature a very nice L-shaped layout with an extended pre-lift section, a large diving pre-drop, and many fast bunny hills. This and Pegasus also happen to be the last 2 coasters designed by the famous Din engineer Curtis D. Summers, and is actually still the 5th longest and 6th tallest wooden coaster in the world. After taking the last few years relatively slow, Intamin would debut 2 new models for 1993, the multi-inversion coaster and the family indoor coaster. The former would be their first coaster for Disney, with Indiana Jones et le Temple du Perro for the new Euro Disneyland. While listed as a multi-inversion coaster, this attraction would feature only a single vertical loop and would wrap around a temple facade in a compact minecar-style train. The other coaster would be the strange Lightning Bolt at MGM Grand Adventure in Las Vegas. The ride was not strange upon opening, just a standard indoor coaster with a small size, a new train style, and 2 helices. Things got weird just 3 years later when the ride was relocated to a different location in the park where it would now run outside. It operated like this for 1 year and then was doubled in length with the second half built by Aerodynamics. It ran as this until the park closed, until it sat in storage and was eventually scrapped. "1994 would not see any new coaster models, but 3 new layouts. First was another family indoor coaster, the Dragon at La Ronde, featuring a castle facade and a medieval theme. The next would be Shockwave at Drayton Manor, which may have the same name as a previous coaster, but would actually be Intamin's only stand-up coaster with a custom layout, featuring the only 0G roll ever on this type of ride. The last would be White Cyclone at Nagashima Spa Land. This massive ride would open as the 4th tallest wooden coaster in the world, and the tallest outside of America. Featuring an incredible sprawling layout with a giant helix, this ride would operate for just over 25 years before being converted by Rocky Mountain Construction into the hybrid coaster Hakuge. The next year would be for the families, with 2 small-scale coasters opening, both being built in South Korea. Viper would open at Play Village and feature the new style family coaster trains with an extremely wooded layout, which was later cut back significantly. The second would be Comet Express at Lot World, one of the first modern spinning coasters built since the Virginia Reel. This new twist and turn coaster spins through 3 rooms in a fully indoor layout with an intergalactic theme. Up to this point, Intamin had still been trying to find their footing as a roller coaster manufacturer. While offering some unique models, they still needed to find out who they would be to set themselves apart from other companies, as the competitive roller coaster war was about to reach its peak. Their first big swing of the year would be Skull Mountain at Six Flags Great Adventure. While this would be just another family indoor coaster, the original facade and theme work done for this attraction was truly ambitious for the time. The ride is fully indoors with a compact layout and featured new 2-row family coaster cars. The next coaster would be a new model and truly an attempt at something new at the time. There was a growing interest at the end of the 90s for new roller coaster models of any kind, including the inline pipeline roller coasters, but no manufacturer ever got it quite right. Intamin's attempt would be Sky Plaza Comet in South Korea. This strange ride would be pushed through most of the layout by drive tires, through 4 inversions in a super compact and short layout inside a hotel. This coaster only operated for 3 years before being sent to Kuwait, where it would run another 5 years before standing abandoned most of its life. The biggest and best coaster of the year would be next, and would be Intamin's most impressive and groundbreaking design to that point. Featuring 2 unique tracks, an indoor and outdoor layout, and Intamin's first ever trademark Heartline roll, Lethal Weapon Pursuit was truly one of the most impressive coasters ever built to that point. The theme work done by Warner Brothers at the time was revolutionary, featuring an impressive queue that took riders through multiple buildings and themed cop car vehicles that would travel through a loop inside the building and an unbelievable flaming car special effect. For a comprehensive history of this ride, I highly recommend watching Tyrannocoaster's incredible video on it. He has no views or subscribers, but all his videos are amazing quality and highly informative. "1997 started off relatively standard with 2 more family coaster models. The first of which was Montaña Russa do Astronauta at Parque de Monaca. This coaster would have the same layout as Viper, which had opened 2 years prior, but indoors and with a space theme. The second would be a new coaster at the oldest park in the world, Wacken. Mine Train Ulven would prove to be a popular layout, being cloned twice long after opening, and features a thrilling drop and great setting for a children's coaster, with similar style trains to Skull Mountain. So to this point, Intamin had built many children and family coasters, bobsled coasters, wooden coasters, stand-up coasters, multi-inversion coasters, and a couple other small attempts of innovations. So naturally, their next innovation would be to build the tallest and fastest coaster in the world. Oh, I'm sorry, let me try that again. The two tallest and fastest coasters in the world. Superman the Escape and Tower of Terror would destroy the record for tallest coasters by over 100 feet each, and would also be Intamin's first ever launch coasters, using a linear synchronous motor system. These would be the first coasters to ever use this technology, and while a year before Premier Rides debuted the linear induction motor launch, the LSM system would prove to be the standard that is used on countless coasters today. Riders would be blasted at speeds of 100 miles per hour up a massive spike, getting a long sustained moment of weightlessness before plummeting back down hundreds of feet. While this would not be a complete circuit ride, it absolutely planted the flag of Intamin's new identity. If you wanted to break records, the tallest, the fastest, the most intense coasters, Intamin would be the sole manufacturer to go to for the most extreme of thrill rides. Only they could smash the height and speed record, and it would be just the beginning of what they were about to achieve over the next decade. They would need a new standard style of track and a big statement coaster to show what they could really do.